Hello, I'm Finlay and you're watching the Run For It YouTube channel. I've got a lot of experience of different types of running shoes, some of which have helped me qualify and race at the Ironman World Championships in Kona twice. I've also worked for Run For It for over 10 years, so have a good understanding of how other runners have responded to various shoe technologies over the years. In this episode, we are going to talk through the best marathon running shoes. And we're going to break these down into different categories because the right shoes for you will be based on your goals and your individual running style. To explain further, the best marathon running shoes for you might be based on factors such as, are you trying to run a personal best, or are you trying to run the marathon in as much comfort as possible? They might also be influenced by how your training has gone and even what the course is like. And I think it's also worth noting that performance and comfort are not mutually exclusive, but we'll come to that back to that point later on in the episode. We're going to break down the options into neutral running shoes for maximum comfort, stability running shoes for maximum comfort, and then the best options to help you achieve a personal best. To start then, if you have a neutral gait and you're looking to run the marathon in maximum comfort, then the following running shoes are going to be some of the best options. And that's because they feature a lot of cushioning and a lot of underfoot protection. So they are going to help make the marathon distance feel as comfortable as possible. However, you're always going to hit a certain point in a marathon where it is just painful. So first up, we have the ASICS Gel-Nimbus 25, and these are ASICS' most cushioned neutral running shoes. They feature a thick layer of Flight Foam Blast Plus Eco Foam, which delivers a really soft and comfortable underfoot feel. They also have Pure Gel in the heel, and that was a really big update for ASICS when they introduced Pure Gel because it's about 65% softer than the previous gel they used to use in their shoes, so delivers a much better underfoot experience. You also notice how the midsole has this curved heel to toe geometry. So what that does is help smooth out the transition from landing to toe off and helps take the stress off your calf muscles. So these are really one of the softest and most comfortable neutral running shoes out there. The Brooks Glycerin 20 are Brooks's most cushioned neutral running shoes. These feature a nitrogen infused foam. And the benefits of that are that it makes the foam very light and resilient in addition to being very soft and cushioned as well. So while these feel very protective and very padded underfoot, there's a little bit more responsiveness to the foam than you might find in some other just softer feeling running shoes. Next up, we have the iconic HOKA Bondi, and these are one of HOKA's most cushioned running shoes. They also feature a really prominent rocker. So what that means, a bit like in the ASICS Gel-Nimbus, when you land, the shoe rocks your foot forward, and that helps take a lot of stress off your calf muscles. It also helps you maintain your pace, particularly as you're getting tired later on in the marathon. Now, one of the key points about the Bondi is they're one of the most supportive neutral running shoes out there, and that's because the sides of the cushioning rise up around the foot to provide more support, and they also have a very wide base net, so that creates a lot of inherent stability. So if you're worried about your form worsening over the course of a marathon and you want as much support from your neutral running shoes as possible, the Bondi are a great option. New Balance's 1080 are one of the best all-rounders, and that's because they feature FreshFoamX, which ultimately feels really soft but really bouncy, and that means that these feel really good at a range of paces. So if you're looking for that maximum comfort and cushioned underfoot feel, but want something that's going to adapt to different intensities and efforts, these are one of the best options to look at. Having said that, the Nike Invincible Run 3 takes the feeling of bounciness to the next level, and that's because the midsole is made with Nike's Superfoam Zoom X, which just returns incredible levels of energy return. And even though this doesn't have a carbon plate in it, it still helps you maintain your pace and move more easily over the course of a run. So if you're looking for maximum comfort cushioning but a bit of extra propulsion and bounce in your stride, the Invincible Run really are one of the best shoes to look at. In a similar vein, you might also want to consider On Cloudmonster. Now, while these don't feel overly soft, these are maximally cushioned running shoes and deliver a lot of underfoot protection. Why they don't feel overly soft is because there's a speed board that runs the whole way through the midsole, and that creates a really propulsive, really energetic sensation under your feet. So if you're looking for maximum protection, don't want to feel the ground under your feet, but are looking for a little bit more pop in your stride, then the Cloudmonster are one of the best shoes to look at. We're now going to move on to the best stability running shoes. If you have unstable feet and ankles or knees and hips and are looking for a little bit more support in your running shoes but want maximum comfort and cushioning, these are going to be some of the best options to look at. So first up we have the ASICS Gel-Nimbus 30, and these deliver ASICS' softest underfoot feel in the stability category. So these are effectively a more supportive version of the Nimbus. We're not going to go into all the techs, but the midsole sculpting, the energetic foam on the medial side of the midsole helps align your feet throughout the gait cycle, and that helps reduce instability that might happen at the feet and ankle and further up the kinetic chain at the knee and the hips. So if you watched our Brooks Glycerin franchise video, you'll know that the GTS version are simply just the stability version of the neutral option. So in the Glycerin GTS, we have these guide rail support systems on the side of the shoe, and those help align your ankles and knees. And the way that support works is that it helps keep your knee and hip in more alignment. So they're one of the better options if you suffer from knee irritations such as IT band pain, for example. And you might see a bit of a trend here as the HOKA Gaviota are simply a stability version of the Bondi. They feature a very similar midsole construction, except with the difference that a firmer structure runs around the top of the midsole. It's called this H-frame support, so it creates this really nice support system for your foot. It also interlocks across the middle of the shoe to provide a little bit more stability, and these are going to be one of the best options for delivering maximum underfoot comfort and protection and support over every step of the marathon. Next up we have the Nike Infinity Run 4. Now this features a thick layer of React X foam. This is the first shoe to feature React X foam, and while it's not quite as soft as Zoom X is, it's still very protective and delivers a lot of energy return. And how these deliver support are via this tuned cushioning on the side of the shoe. It wraps up, sits around the foot to provide a little bit more holistic stability. The upper is also very supportive. So these really suit runners who just generally like that kind of encapsulated supportive fit on the top of the foot and like that slightly more responsive and stable feel under their feet. And last but not least, in the stability running shoes category, we have the Saucony Tempest. And these are the only stability running shoes to feature a superfoam. The majority of the midsole is made from Saucony's Superfoam Power Run PB, which just delivers incredible levels of energy return and bounce under your feet. What makes them stability running shoes is there's a slightly firmer foam that creates this support frame around this superfoam material, so it adds that extra level of stability under your feet and for the rest of the leg. So if you need a stability running shoe but you are chasing those faster times in your marathon racing, then the Saucony Tempest are probably one of the best shoes to opt for. On to the final category then. If you're looking to run a personal best in a marathon and hit your best time, you really want to be looking at the super shoes category, and that's because they're going to help improve your running economy and help make it easier to run at a given pace so you can hit your target times. Now, as these super shoes feature so much cushioning and help take so much stress and load off your legs, they feel really comfortable to run in. And that's why performance and comfort are not mutually exclusive. However, they do perform and work best when you're running at a set pace for the duration of a run. And what I mean by that is when you slow right down in a super shoe, they don't necessarily feel as good as when you're running at kind of that set target effort, which requires a little bit more intensity. And you notice that potentially in some training sessions when you're warming up and cooling down in them. They don't feel quite as fluid under your feet as they do in the main section. And I've also experienced that in races where it's not quite gone to plan, and I found that I've slowed down quite a lot at the end of a race. And at that stage, I've actually wished that I've had something that was just generally a little bit softer under my feet and didn't have that carbon plate or propulsive structure in it that you can become very aware of under your feet. So if you're on the fence about whether or not you should use a super shoe for your next marathon, I just consider how your training has gone. If you think that you can complete the marathon at a set pace, then I would probably be looking at one of these options. However, if you're a bit unsure about your condition and you want to maximize your chances of finishing, I potentially opt for a non-plated option. And additionally, even though super shoes work in a different way to normal running shoes and take a lot of stress off the muscles, joints, and whole leg basically, they don't offer a lot of support and control for greater ranges of pronation. So if you do think you'd benefit from a little bit more support in your running shoes, then I would potentially stick with one of the more stable options and look into the stability category. So first up, we have the Adidas Adios Pro 3. Now, these feature a thick layer of Adidas's Superfoam Lightstrike Pro, which delivers incredible levels of energy return, feels ultra energetic and soft under the feet. Running through the midsole are these carbon fiber infused energy rods. And one of the main benefits of these rods are that not only do they improve energy return, they move independently of one another. And that's what a carbon plate can't do. So this potentially feels a little bit smoother under your feet. The transition from landing toe to toe off just feels a little bit more natural. These also feel incredibly stable when you're moving around corners, which some Superfoam shoes don't. The only slight downside on the Adios are that the upper is incredibly light and potentially lacks a little bit of support as a result. Where the laces also attach in on the toe box, it can cause some rubbing if you've got a broader foot, and that's because the tongue doesn't wrap and extend down the front of the shoe. They are minor things, but they're just worth noting that they're probably going to suit runners with a slightly slimmer foot shape. Next, we have Mizuno's head-turning Wave Rebellion Pro. These feature a highly energetic midsole foam and a carbon-infused plate. And why I say head-turning is there's no getting away from how curved that midsole shaping is. And while it might surprise you, these are really well suited to heel strikers. And actually, when you land, this rocker just propels your foot forward with so much momentum. And the best thing about these running shoes, what I've certainly found, is that it just makes it so easy to maintain a pace. Once you get up to that target pace, it just feels like you're running on wheels, which is an incredible sensation. The midsole also feels very stable under your foot. It's really supportive, and the outsole is incredibly grippy. I'd say these are probably the most grippy super shoes that I've ever run in. The only downsides to these are that the foams don't necessarily feel as soft as what they do in some of the other options, and they don't feel as good when you start to slow down. So these are slightly more suited to runners that are aiming faster times, and what I would say by faster times are really in the region of that sub 3 hour pace. So next up, we have the famous Nike Vaporfly 3, Nike's lightest marathon racing shoes, featuring full-length carbon fiber plate in ZoomX foam. Now, these just feel incredibly propulsive, incredibly cushioned under the feet, and that's one of the big selling points of these, is how soft they are. They genuinely feel incredible at such a broad range of paces. Even if you go out on a slow run in the Vaporfly 3, they just feel so comfortable under the feet. And on a personal note, something I found is that the Vaporfly feels really good on uphill and downhill sections, whereas I don't get on so well with the Alphafly. So if I'm racing on a hillier course now, I'll always opt for the Vaporfly over the Alphafly because it just performs better for me. And what some running economy data testing shows is that your performance benefits from a super shoe are greater on flatter sections than they are on uphills and downhills. So if you find a super shoe that does feel good and is giving you a bit of a boost and a benefit on those uphill sections, then that's something to really pay attention to. While these do offer a lot of support and are more supportive than the previous Vaporfly, they're not quite as supportive as the Alphafly, so that's something to consider when you're picking between the two. So on to Nike's Alphafly 2. These are their most propulsive racing shoes. They are one of the best options out there for marathon distance running. While they're a little bit heavier than the Vaporfly, they do offer a little bit more support, as I alluded to just there, and they offer more propulsion under the foot. So when you're running those events where you can just get up to a set pace and you just want to hold on to that speed for as long as possible, it really is hard to look past the Alphafly. They also feel so forgiving at such a wide range of paces. The only thing you want to consider is how many turns you're going to have to do, because the Vaporfly 3, even though they don't necessarily offer as much support as the Alphafly, they do feel more stable when you're changing direction and you're turning around a corner as well. And finally, we're going to throw something different into the mix, because we've got the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 here. Now, these feature Saucony's Superfoam Power Run PB, but why they're a little bit different is these don't have a carbon plate, they have a nylon plate running through the midsole, and that offers a slightly more forgiving underfoot experience than carbon. So these are still an incredibly propulsive super shoe, but they potentially feel a little bit better at slower speeds than some of the more rigid options do. The plate is also winged as well, so it actually sits up around the midfoot area, and that offers a little bit more stability and support, which is great if your feet pronate to a slightly greater degree. So that's all of our top picks. And I should say at this stage that there are obviously other marathon running shoes that are going to feel great, but the purpose of this episode was to present some of the best in class options, the running shoes that feature each respective brand's pinnacle technologies and most advanced materials and design techniques, because that usually translates into the best running experiences and improvements in performance. And that brings me to the end of this episode. Thank you very much for listening. Really hope that helps you pick the right marathon running shoes for your next race. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure and hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. We'll see you next time.